This is Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast, with your hosts, Brandon Spinner and Michael Burns.
Hello and welcome into Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. I am Brandon Spinner alongside my co-host, Michael Burns. Mikey, how are you doing over last week, my man?
I'm doing all right. The weather has finally heated up. I've gotten to get out more and get the girls out on. We go on popsicle walks at night right before bedtime.
Popsicle walks.
Popsicle walks. Bonnie has always done it and has learned now she can eat the popsicle fast enough where it doesn't melt on her hand. You'll see the napkin that I put under her popsicle that she holds is soaked by the end of the walk, and usually her popsicle falls off the stick before she actually finishes it.
Aren't there usually tears involved?
Not too bad, because I let her grab it off the sidewalk and eat it.
Hey, 5-second rule.
It's not going to hurt.
Now, the more important question is, what flavor popsicles are we talking?
For how often we were going, we would buy the like Costco or the Costco or the Kroger's, eat popsicles that would have dual popsicle, and you have to break them in half. But I went all out this last week, and I bought rainbow popsicles. I'll tell you what,
popsicles.
I've had two myself. They're pretty delicious.
Now I need to Google what a rainbow popsicle is.
It's got the all the colors. Starts with purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red.
Oh, okay, I see it. By popsicle. Well, no, that's different. Okay, so this one has all of them. Oh, okay, I see it. It looks like a cylinder.
Ours are not a cylinder, but yeah, they usually are. I think the classic one's a cylinder. And there's a Cocoa Melon song, I think.
Grape, strawberry, apple, orange, and pineapple. Yeah, I would only eat the first three flavors and then be like, all right, I'm done.
Dude, it's a popsicle.
I hate pineapple.
You hate
I will
pineapple?
literally puke. I will literally throw up. Pineapple is like an automatic gag. Ugh.
Yeah, I love pineapple.
I love me some popsicles. I hate me some pineapple. But this is Barrels and Barrels, a bourbon and baseball podcast. Welcome.
Not a popsicle, bourbon and baseball.
Today we are, how does that fit in? Bourbon, baseball, and popsicles, just like apple pie and Chevrolet, right? Baseball, apple pie, and Chevrolet. All things American. Bourbon, baseball, and popsicles. But this is episode 26. Welcome in. If this is your first episode, welcome. Thanks for joining us. If you're a longtime barrelhead, welcome back. As you've noticed over the last couple of weeks, we've introduced our podcast with the best players to wear the number of our podcast. So this week, who do you think is the best player to ever wear number 26? Mikey, I know that you love to compare jersey numbers, and you know all things about jersey numbers. So who do you think?
My quick Google, Wade Boggs is the name that pops up.
There are two names I think that deserve the discussion, and Wade Boggs is one of them. I think Billy Williams is the other one that you can discuss.
Oh, absolutely. His name's retired with the Cubs, at least.
His is retired with the Cubs. I don't think the Red Sox have retired Wade Boggs, because that was the only team he played for as the number 26 when he went to the Yankees. And then at the time, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. He was 12 for both of those teams, but he spent all of his years with the Red Sox, 11 seasons wearing the number 26. Hall of Famer in 2005. There's some controversy behind that because, you know that? The controversy about Wade Boggs in the Hall of Fame?
No.
So he went into the Hall of Fame. He spent 12 years or 11 years with the Red Sox, 11 or 12 years, and then a couple years with the Yankees, 4 or 5, and then he went to the Tampa Bay Devil Rays for the last 2 of his career.
How could you go from the Red Sox to Yankees? I don't get that.
It happens a lot more than you think.
It does.
Jacoby Ellsbury, Johnny Damon, right? Or vice versa, Yankees to the Red Sox. It's happened quite a bit. But when he did that, and then he went to the Tampa Bay Devil Rays at the time, for his last 2 years of his career, where he still hit 300, but he was nowhere near the Wade Boggs that he was in Boston. He went into the Hall of Fame as a Devil Ray.
Devil Ray? No, he didn't.
Yeah, that was part of his contract, I believe. I believe that was part of his contract, is if you sign here, we'll give you this amount of money or whatever, and you have to go in as a Devil Ray. So that's what he did.
What? What a
Yeah, yeah.
sellout.
What a sellout. He was a 12-time All-Star, two-time Gold Glove. He won the World Series in 1996, five-time batting title. He had a career on-base percentage of 415, an OPS of 858, and he was one of those, I'm not going to slug, but I'm going to get on base and hit. He had a career batting average of 328 with only 118 home runs. Billy Williams, however, 426 home runs, a career batting average of 290. He had the OPS that was just underneath because he didn't get on base as much as Boggs did. Their numbers as a slash line are actually very close, except Boggs' on base percentage is slightly higher, but Boggs had a much higher WAR over the same length. I'm going to lead Wade Boggs on this one, I think. Both of them are Hall of Famers. Billy Williams, of course, his number flies on the foul pole at Wrigley. But I'm probably leaning Wade Boggs on this one. Who do you
So
think?
you're just saying who's the best 26, or what are we calling this episode?
Well, who's the best 26?
Yeah, I think the numbers, I think WAR, let's see, WAR is not even close.
No, he
91.4 for Boggs and 63.7 for Billy Williams. So that helps
even though
decide if you're on a line there.
yeah, Billy's got 300 plus more home runs, but his batting average is about 40 points lower. Wade scored more runs. He only stole 24 bases. He's not a speed demon. Neither was Billy. Billy only stole 90. But RBI, like if you were looking for slugging, you're going Billy Williams. But if you're looking for a pure let's get on base and make things happen kind of guy, and also he played at the third base side of the field, and also he was a 12-time All-Star. 12 times.
He did
Wade
it in
Boggs
less
was-
time, too, than Billy.
And Billy ended his career in
you
Oakland.
convinced me.
I think I'm going Wade Boggs. Trying not to let the Cubs
Oh,
take
I was
over.
I was totally letting the Cubs take over until the last few stats.
So this is the Wade Boggs episode. I don't know if that's actually the name of the title, but that is episode 26. Wade Boggs, cheers to you, sir. You are the best number 26 to ever play the game. So we are Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast. You can find us on YouTube. Our subscriber count continues to climb. We're up to 160 now. At last week, it was like 144, so we've gone up 16. Make sure you go head on over there, subscribe to us at Barrels and Barrels Pod. Again, that letter N in the middle of both barrels. You can find us there. We're putting out exclusive content and shorts there, recapping some plays of the day or maybe some players of the weekend or even players of the week. Exclusive content there.
Breaking news.
Some hot news, even some in-game live home runs that we catch on our phones. Those have gotten some great play,
Anything
especially
exciting,
on
baby.
Facebook.
It's always there.
Yeah. It's always there, and it's always exclusive. Barrels and Barrels on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram as well. Last week we hit 1,000. We're climbing there. And also on Facebook, where we're rapidly growing. We're now above 400 followers. Just 3 or 4 weeks ago, that was around 150. So we're really jumping there. A lot of our fans trending towards Facebook, and you can find us on Twitter. Barrels and Barrels Pod. It's actually Barrels and Barrels. There's no pod at the end because Twitter limits the amount of characters. We're up to 162 followers there. Don't forget to listen to us. We are on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, really trending lately, as well as Stitcher and Google Podcasts. Please rate us and review us. Last I checked, we were still 15 out of 15 for 5-star reviews on Apple Podcasts. We need more on Spotify. So head on over there. Please click the 5-star or give us a rating and your review. And if you do, we'll give you a shout out on the podcast. And speaking of shout outs, I mentioned anytime you subscribe to our YouTube page, we'll give you a shout out. Here are some of the recent subscribers: the Cobros, Thomas Powers, Rizzler4, Marcellus Scott, and Fleeting Improv. So thank you for all of you who have just joined in. As I mentioned, is this your first time with Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast? We welcome you. Thank you. We start with bourbon to chime right off the top, and that's where we're turning to now. And for the second week in a row, Mikey Burns will take the helm of the bourbon portion of the Baseball and Bourbon podcast.
All right. So today we have Old Elk Cigar Cut. Usually I'm not a big Old Elk fan, but when I was at Benny's Beverage Depot, if it's not at Benny's, it's not worth drinking.
That's right.
Not an ad. And I was chatting up the guy, talking, oh, hey, I do some bourbon reviews. I'm looking for something good to grab here while I'm at Benny's Beverage Depot. It's not worth drinking. If it's not at Benny's, it's not worth drinking. And he
No
said,
free
dude,
ads.
I can't believe this Old Elk Cigar Cut's still on the shelf. We had some guys who asked us to call us whenever this got in. And so I was like, well, that sounds like the guy I'm going to grab then. So have you had a cigar blend bourbon before, Brandon?
I have not. They've really gained in popularity as of late. I know that. I know a lot of people are hard after those cigar blends from Starlight. Those have really jumped off the shelves from what I'm seeing, but they're really beginning to get popular in all sorts of brands.
Right, Joseph Mangus, I know is a good one. I've heard. I haven't had it. This will be my first cigar cut,
Can you
cigar
say that
blend.
again?
Joseph Mangus,
I think it's Magnus.
Magnus. So I just flip the G and the N, right?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So,
So Old Elk Cigar Blend, go.
Old Elk Cigar Blend. So if you don't know what a cigar blend is, it's a bourbon whiskey that is specially blended with cigar tobaccos in it. Usually they are blended with a low proof bourbon and a high proof bourbon. This particular cigar cut comes in at 110.6 proof. This specific blend has 4 different finishes. It has a sherry cask finish, an Armagnac cask finish, a port cask finish, and a cognac cask finish. All with ages 1.5 years, 1.25 years, 3 to 8 months, and 3 to 6 months, respectively.
So finish for that length of time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, finished in those 4 different casks. This blend of high malt bourbons was at least 6 years.
At least 6 years. So the minimum is
least
6
6
years.
Right.
And is this an MGP distillate? Do you know?
I don't think so because of the mash bill.
Okay.
The mash bill is 51% corn, 34% malted barley, so high malted barley, and 15% rye.
That's interesting.
Yeah, not one I'm usually familiar with, and usually a malted barley is usually on the lower end of things. The rye and the malted barley are a little flip-flopped. And
I think Chattanooga is more malt than
right.
rye.
I guess that's the high malt maybe term. Usually the couple of high malts I've had are a little too malty for me.
Malty.
That makes sense?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I get it.
Um,
I know what you're saying.
right. But this is right around the good proof, I think, for us, where we tend to enjoy it. 110.6.
It's got a beautiful nose.
Really? You sniffing over there?
Yeah. I got right off the bat vanilla caramel and tobacco. Of course, I wrote tobacco down before you even said anything. I didn't know that. I thought it was just it would pair well with a cigar. That's what I always thought a cigar cut or a cigar blend was.
Right.
Because you don't lose the flavor with the cigar. But I mean, I pulled tobacco out. I even got a little bit of like a floral and a darker fruit out of it.
Mm-hmm. The sherry cask is the longest finish, the 1.5 years.
Well, there's the dark fruit for me.
These are all fruity finishes. Sherry, Armagnac, port, and cognac.
Mm-hmm.
I get the same thing. I get immediately the tobacco, some leather. That sherry comes right through as well. I don't get a strong, I get a late oak sniffles there.
There's a little bit. There's definitely a little bit, but it's not overpowering.
I'll go in for a first look odor here as you go in.
I get leather right off the bat. Like very leathery. There's some oak there. I definitely pulled a sherry. Definitely some fruitness right there in the middle too.
What's that finish you get?
Malty. It's got a malty finish to me. Like it's clearly a malt.
To me, and I know it's all in the name, but it's ashy. It's an ashy finish.
Like so the ashtray I said
yes.
about the winter whiskey from.
Yes.
That's what you get is an ashtray?
I get an ashtray finish. Beginning's leather, you get some fruit, and then it's like ashtray finish. and it's got to be the blend. Maybe it's the tobacco. Now, I'm not a cigar guy. I can't say I've smoked a cigar. I know,
You've
Brandon,
never smoked a cigar?
well, I had a grandma that was a smoking addict and going to her
Mm.
house with brown ceilings as a kid.
Yep, I understand that.
So I've never been able to touch anything smoking related. And so I've never had a cigar and so I can't relate to the blend of the tobacco and cigar cut,
Hmm.
or even, hey, bourbon and whiskey pairs well with cigar.
Hmm.
I don't know that.
I enjoy a nice cigar with a pour, and I think that this would pair extremely well. I do agree that it's got more of a tobacco-y or like an ashy end to it. I think there's a lot of malt towards the back, and I think that the front half is really powerful. To me, it's like a roller coaster ride. It enters, it comes in warm, it comes in leathery, it's got a little tingle to it. I think the middle portion, I pull out a little bit of that fruit, that sherry comes in. It starts to mellow a bit, and then the start to the finish is a little underwhelming. But the more you talk and the more you chew on it, and I haven't taken a sip in about a minute or so, I would say that it's starting to come back. It's starting to have a little bit more of a back end bite to it. Not a bite, but it's starting to talk back to me with some more flavoring. A lot of oak and a lot of that tobacco and leather at the
As
end.
tobacco, I think. It's hard for me to say, but it's not a familiar taste for me.
Hmm.
And it's earthy. It's ashy for me. I mean,
I think
maybe
that
earthy is a
earthiness
better
is the
tone.
tobacco. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, not enjoying that earthiness.
You're not a fan?
Uh-uh.
so, my, so I think it's because you haven't had a tobacco product in your career, in your life, or
My
um,
career.
yes, in your career. Everything relates to your career.
No,
So,
that probably makes sense. I'm sure that I can see where a cigar and a whiskey could pair together. It's a
mhm.
dryness with a flavorful drink right
So
there.
should I dip the cigar in it and like chew on it to see if it?
Is that something you do with cigars? You chew
No.
on them?
Well, some people like to chew. Some people do like to just gnaw on the end, like the bottom nub, as
It's
like
like chewing
a
tobacco, right?
yeah, and it pretty close is. So what do you rate it? I'm assuming you're leaning towards the lower end of our scale.
Let me take one more sip as you go through that.
If you're new here, we've got a rating scale based off of baseball. We go from Hall of Famer, which is the best of the best, as we said, with Wade Boggs and Billy Williams. 1% of baseball players make the Hall of Fame. The next is an All Star. You've got All Stars on every team. You've got All Stars on your shelf. Those are like your most prized bottles. And then you go to everyday player. It's just like a baseball player. Always in your lineup, always on the shelf. Bench player, one of those that comes and mixes it up. You have it on your shelf just to mix things up. Pour it once a month, maybe every couple weeks, or something along those lines, just like a pinch hitter or that guy who comes in to fill in and spot start. And then there's designate for assignment, which you get cut off the team. That means you're finding another home. So as I asked Michael, where do you rate this Old Elk Cigar Blend whiskey?
This guy, he's being brought into my office. He's being sat down. I hang my head a little bit and I look into the neck of the bottle and tell him, buddy, you're gonna have to find somewhere else, somebody else's glass to go into because you've been designated for assignment, boy.
So Michael has cut the Old Elk Cigar Blend off his team with a designate for assignment. I think part of it is because you don't know what the tobacco-y taste is, what that ash is. My only DFA was the winter whiskey from New Riff. I
Right.
thought that had a very strong ashtray taste to it. I don't get that from this. This is a flavor explosion in my mind. I've got a bunch going on. I find this very complex.
I
There's
can see that.
leather, there's caramel, vanilla. I got that sherry. I get the dark fruits from those finishes. This is where our palates differ because I'm going with an all-star, baby.
Oh, let's go. I can see the complexities in it, but that earthy tobacco flavor for me is just a no-go. It
To
just
turn off.
destroys it. It just destroys it.
And that's what makes we said it early on in the podcast. I don't think we've said it in a while, but that's what makes whiskey in this community great is everybody's got their own type that they like. Every flavor is different for everybody. Some person might pick up a bottle that they think is the best thing in the world and another person might spit at it, right? So that's what makes this community great. That's what makes just whiskey in general great is everybody has their own thoughts and opinion. And clearly Michael and I differ. Sometimes we're right in line and sometimes we're not. So you may align with my palate. You may align with Michael's palate if you haven't smoked before. If you're not into the tobacco type of thing, this may not be up your alley. To me, I think this is very delicious. What Greg Metz did over at Old Elk, I think this is fantastic, sir.
I can I can taste the different complexities in it. I can taste what you're talking about, that leather up front, that the fruit in the middle, um, and that it's got very many different levels. But again, so yeah, right. Like Brandon said, if you enjoy a good cigar, this is probably right up your alley. I've heard nothing but good things about cigar blends usually. So I was very surprised that, and I was excited when I got it. I got it
You were.
when I in Chicago, right? And I was like, guess what I got? Brought it home, couldn't wait. And as soon as Brandon got this sample, we're reviewing it, and
Yeah, I got this the other day, and it was put at the top of the list.
so the excitement level was there, and oh man,
Well, I'm upset for
disappointed.
you because you got the
I'm
bottle.
upset, but I'm excited for you. That's fantastic that you think it's an all-star. It's great to find fantastic bourbons and enjoy the ones that you enjoy.
I was really excited to try this. Like the moment you said that you got it, I was like, "Oh my god, that's awesome!" Because I've been looking for this. And then you said it comes in around 120 to $130. So
Yep.
it's a pretty penny. But I do think that if you are a fan of cigar cuts or if you like to smoke with your bourbon, this will be right up your alley. It did win gold at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition for the Cask Finish Series Cigar Cut. So congratulations to Old Elk, who took home 2 golds this year, and they won for the Infinity Blend 2022. So I really enjoy what Old Elk's put out. We did the Armagnac Cask Finish. That
Armagnac.
was one we opened together. I can never say
Did
that
we?
word. Armagnac?
Did we do that one?
We opened that on New Year's Eve.
That's
We
the
didn't
only.
review it.
That's the only one I've had.
Of
Old
theirs.
Oak. Otherwise, I've actually. I want to say no. That's the only one I've had, and I don't think I enjoyed that one either. So I've always been kind of put off by Old
Old
Elk.
Elk.
I think I've had
I-
one other Old Elk, and I didn't enjoy it either.
I found
I
the
didn't
more
love
that
it.
that I found the more that was open, the better it got.
Yeah.
The more the bottle that opened, and I was kind of disappointed when I finished it. I still have the empty over there, but
Well, hey, if someone would like to try a sample of this Old Elk and is listening here, shoot us a message on Instagram or email at barrelsandbarrels@gmail.com and let us know if you wanna get into this Old Elk Cigar Cut.
yeah. And while you do that, order a T-shirt. We've got T-shirts available, $25 a T-shirt. Just shipped out
They're so
20 of them.
comfy.
A bunch of people just posted their pictures of them. And another guy, Mo, just ordered one this week, and his was just shipped out. So head on
They
over there,
fit-
email.
They fit too. They're not only they comfy, they fit like those classic tees, Like, oh, I've got a belly and then my arms aren't being shown. Dude, they fit, and I mean, look at Brandon there. It's
I'm
like
wearing it
it's
now.
like severe weather's coming in or something. This guy, the guns are out, so severe weather must be coming. So
They are ultra comfy, and we have our friends over at Charlie Mike Never Weekend, who we've partnered with to make those shirts. So thank you to Charlie Mike Never Weekend for twisting and turning and getting those T-shirts made and sent out. Again, $25 if you want a T-shirt. You can email us, as Michael just put it out, barrelsandbarrels@gmail.com. Man, I'm kind of bummed for you because I know how excited you were to find this,
Right.
and you were like, I'm taking this.
it's such a cool. I don't know if all Old Elks have this tree trunk cap. They do. Okay.
It's supposed to be like the antler of an elk. That's what it looks like So as a deer horn or deer antler, that's what it
so
looks
this is
like
not
closer
tree
to the
trunk,
skull.
It's an antler. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And sometimes you can find the Old Elk bottles have an elk head pourer on it. I'm disappointed in myself for not buying a couple of those when I've seen them. But have you seen those? They have, like, you know how sometimes you can put a pourer on the top of a bottle to pour at a bar.
Yeah, and it comes out.
It comes out the mouth of the elk.
I didn't realize they were out of Colorado. So
Yeah,
that
Colorado.
makes sense a little bit of their flavor isn't the heat. There's not as much heat there to get deeper into the wood and pull that flavor out.
Could be. I do think it's MGP as well. I think they distill for Old Elk, or at least they have in the past. I don't know what they're doing.
It just says bottled and by Old Elk Distillery, Colorado.
That would be my guess then, is someone distilled it. And I know Greg is more so blending right now, which is what this was, with 4 different blends and 4 different finishes, just like his Infinity Blend, which he does every year, which is a really cool story. If you haven't checked out the Infinity Blend story, go check that out. Just Google Old Elk Infinity Blend and see what Greg Metz is doing with those. Those are really cool. We tried that at Brinkman's a couple of weeks ago, Michael, and we both enjoyed it then, I think. We had 23 pours or so at that point, but I think
that
I
number
remember you
keeps growing
saying
every time we talk about it.
Well, we had 18, I swear, at Nashville Barrel Company, but it felt like
that number again. That number too keeps growing.
But that is the bourbon portion of Barrels and Barrels of Bourbon and Baseball podcast. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you've already tried Old Elk Cigar Blend, we want to know what you think. So comment that on our Instagram page, or right on over to Facebook or Twitter, or just send us an email, as Michael mentioned. So we're just going to transition to baseball now. I always like to use a trivia question that I try to stump Michael on. He's about 50-50 on some of these. So, Michael.
Oh, thank you for that stat. I think that's a little high.
I think that number is a little high. I was trying to give you a little credit.
Thank you.
Trying to bump you up. So, Justin Verlander just did something last week that we'll touch on here in a second. He won a game against the Reds, which made it all 30 MLB teams he's secured a win against. So, who is the only Hall of Famer to have won versus all 30 Major League Baseball teams?
I got 2 names in mind. I'm going to tell you
I think
both.
I know one of the names that you're going to say.
I'm going to say Randy Johnson and Curt Schilling.
Okay.
Because they both played in the NL and AL. Diamondbacks, Expos, Red Sox for Schilling. So I'm going to go with Curt Schilling.
You're going with Curt Schilling.
Yes, if it's Randy Johnson, I swear.
It is Randy Johnson, because Curt Schilling is not in the Hall of Fame, my friend.
Oh, is he not? Not
No,
yet,
he's
or
not
just
yet.
not at all?
He's not. He is not at all in the Hall of Fame. He's been. That is one of the old-timey baseball Hall of Fame voters. We're going to keep him off because of his politics, and we don't like what he thinks and says. But Randy Johnson is the only Hall of Famer. Originally, I was like, it's got to be Greg Maddux, but I'm stuck in today's
AL
game.
East. Yep.
Where he didn't have a win versus the Angels. I don't think he beat Baltimore. He had like 4 teams that he didn't beat in his career. But Justin Verlander did it last week against the Reds. He is one of just 5, I believe, active players in the league to do it. At least last I checked.
There's active guys.
Scherzer's done it. Garrett Cole
but your
has done it.
question was Hall of Fame guys. Okay.
Hall of Fame, yeah. So Randy Johnson is the only Hall of Famer. Verlander was the 21st player to do it.
Did Curt Schilling do it, but he's not in the Hall of Fame? Do we know that answer?
So there are 21 of them who have done it. Curt Schilling did it he completed it in 2004 when he beat the Boston Red Sox. So the 4 active players to have done it: Max Scherzer, Zach Greinke, Garrett Cole, and Justin Verlander. Bartolo Colon, John Lackey, Tim Hudson, Kyle Loesch had done it. Dan Herron has done it. AJ Burnett, Derek Lowe, Vicente Padilla, that's a name, Javier Vasquez, Barry Zito. We already talked about Randy Johnson, Jamie Moyer, Woody Williams, Curt Schilling, Terry Mulholland, Kevin Brown, and Al Leiter. You'll notice that all of these are after 2002 because interleague play didn't really start until the 90s. And then there were only, 28 teams before the Rockies and the Rays and the Diamondbacks and all that with expansion back in the 90s. So it's recent day, but I would say that Scherzer and Verlander are probably Hall of Famers on this list. Once they retire, I do think Schilling deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. That's the only other name on the list I think that would be a Hall of Famer. But, Verlander did it last week versus the Cincinnati Reds. And one of the names on the list, Zach Greinke, did another thing last week. He struck out his 1,000th career batter, not 1,000th overall, 1,000 different batters total.
1,000 different. What's his total strikeout numbers? Do you have that?
Let me pull that up real quick. So Greinke's at 2,914 career strikeouts, so he's just 86 off.
That's what I was curious about, how far away he was from 3,000 Ks.
I don't know if he's going to make it this year. He may make it next year. He's having a rough year this year at 5.01 ERA. He's 1-4. He's on the Royals. He's only got 32 strikeouts this year. Last year, he only struck out 73, and the year before, he struck out 120. The last time he had 150 or more was 2019 with the Diamondbacks and the Astros. So, I don't know if he'll make 3,000 this year. They're projecting him to be around 70 strikeouts, so that's only 40 more. So he would need another year. Whether or not he does that, it's going to be up to whether or not he wants to play through year 40. He's 39 and a half years old.
And he's on a one-year contract, so he's not contracted to play baseball next year.
Correct. 1 year, $8.5 million. He'll be a free agent. He's pitched for 18 years, so he's had a long career. Maybe borderline Hall of Famer, 3.45 ERA. I don't know. I think that's just a guy who's been in the league for a long time.
He was drafted in 2002. First round, 6 overall.
By the Royals. And he pitched okay with the Royals. He really started to come into his own in like 07, 08, I think.
With the Brewers, right?
No, he pitched very well. It was 09. He had a 2.16 ERA with the Royals, and then he went to the Brewers 2 years later. In 2011. He wasn't there long, and then he went to the Dodgers, where he had a very good stretch in 2015.
Okay.
I'd say Hall of Very Good for Zach Greinke. But yeah, he just struck out his 1,000th different batter, which is impressive. I believe that's only been done 4 other times. So Greinke joins Randy Johnson, Roger Clemens, Greg Maddux, and Nolan Ryan as the only other players to have struck out 1,000 different players. So he's only the stricken him. He's done 1,000 different batters. So I find that very impressive. When you're on a list with those 4, pretty impressive. Means he pitched a long time, and you strike out a lot of people. So congrats to Greinke. Speaking of strikeouts.
Yeah, speaking of strikeouts, Brandon. I'm a pitcher growing up. I still pitch in adult league, so pitchers are always my favorite. And striking out being a high K strikeout pitcher is, I think, the most desirable. So I wanted to get into the top strikeout leaders in baseball right now. Do you know who number 1 is, Brandon?
It's got to be Spencer Strider.
It's got to be Spencer Strider. Yeah. So not counting tonight.
He's got a 15.4 or whatever K per 9, so it has to be him and Evaldi, I would guess, at the top 2. And they're both pitching against each other. Well,
he's almost got a two strikeout per inning rate. He's in 46.2 innings. He's got 79 Ks. So almost
coming
2
into
per inning.
Tonight.
Coming into tonight, 5.17. So he's pitching
Mitch Keller's in the top 5 of that list.
Right. So starting at the top, we got Spencer Strider, 79. I think there's a couple surprising on this list because number 2, Kevin Gausman, 77
He struck
strikeouts.
out 10 again last night.
He's having a resurgence after not pitching so well to start. Who has pitched well to start? Obviously, these guys that we're talking about.
Until today, Eduardo Rodriguez had. You had Zach Gallen, who I'm assuming is atop that list, or in the top 5 at least.
Yep. So number 3, which I'm surprised by, I don't feel like you've heard much about him this year, Shohei Ohtani. I feel like since the World Baseball Classic.
If you follow on Facebook, MLB posts about him every day. Every single day. Every single day. I don't think it's out of out of the ordinary. I think he should be posted about. He's a unicorn, but I knew he was in the top 10. I didn't know he was in the top 5, but he pitched,
Top
was it
three?
yesterday, 2 days ago? So he was
Yeah.
third with 71 strikeouts. Then
So
my
he's
guy,
maybe
I
ahead
think,
of
is
these
next.
guys. Yep, your guy, Zach. Your guy, who's your guy, Gallen or Keller?
Zach Gallen.
Zach Gallen
Zach
is
Gallen,
number
for sure.
4 with 70 and 57. Otani has 71 and 53, so he's got the better strikeout rate than Gallen. And Gallen's having
Mm-hmm.
a Cy Young quality year. He's got the most
Mm-hmm.
quality start. Oh, I take that back. Gosman has the most quality starts, and Gallen's number 2 with 6. And then
Yeah.
the player of the week, pitcher of the week last week.
Mm-hmm. Player of the week. NL Player of the Week. Mitch Keller. Boy, what a week for Mitch Keller. He's really starting to come into his own. Like we talked about him, I think last week or the week before, how he was playing very well. He threw a complete game shutout last Monday, and then he followed it up with 7 shutout innings versus the Orioles on Sunday. I watched the second half of that game because it's hard not to watch the Orioles this year. I find myself turning on 2 teams more than the Cubs. 2 other teams that aren't the Cubs,
There
that
you go.
are the Orioles and the Mariners.
Yeah,
If the Cubs aren't playing, those are the other 2 teams that I've been watching a lot lately. And so I watched the Pirates game. What was insane about Mitch Keller's game on Sunday is he went 7 shutout to extend his scoreless streak. He also struck out, I believe, 10 in that game. Whatever it was, he ended. Oh, he struck out 13. He struck out 13 in the 7 innings because he ended up with 21 strikeouts on the week over 16 innings. He had 1 walk, 8 hits. The most incredible part of all of this, he faced 26 batters on Sunday. He threw 23 balls total.
That's I mean, that's the way to pitch. More, first pitch strikes.
Mm-hmm. And
Either
I think
pitch to
that's
contact.
where I would go against you with you want strikeouts, because sometimes some pitchers just go solely for the strikeout and they rack their pitch count up too high. And that's where I would say is the one knock against Spence in Atlanta is he's only throwing, I think, like an average of 5 1/3 or 5 2/3 rather going deeper into the game. What's he got? Like
Out of the
only
list,
46.
Out of the list of top 5 strikeouts, he is by far the lowest of innings pitched.
By like
And
8 innings or more, right?
By 10. So Gallen has 57, Strider has 46.
Mm-hmm.
And the next closest.
Now
in the
Gallen
top
has
5
one
is
more
Ohtani.
start.
Gallen does have one more start, so to take 7 innings out makes it a little better.
But 46 divided by 8
Actually,
is...
What makes this a little bit more impressive is Strider on this list is the only one who hasn't started 9 games. He's only started 8.
Right.
And he's at the top of the leaderboard.
What I think
He's
is
also-
impressive is Gosman has 9 walks and Gallen has 8 walks. Those are the only 2 with single-digit walks.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
another name that I wanted to toss in there, we threw a YouTube short up about him, is Joe Ryan is having an incredible year. He was in towards the top of that list after his last start, but there's obviously been other pitchers who've pitched since then. But he's got 57 strikeouts through 50 innings with a 2.16 ERA, and he's only walked 7. So his K per walk ratio is crazy too.
Yep. And that's the key to pitching, right?
Mm-hmm.
Out more, less walks.
Less free passes.
Less free
But-
passes. You know that 2-out walk always comes back to bite you.
Always- Or the leadoff walk too. The leadoff walk is the worst, right? It's just start the inning with a runner on first base.
Give him a
And
free
speaking
start.
of a runner on first base, a guy who got on base a lot last week. So Mitch Keller won the NL Player of the Week, and Anthony Rizzo, former Cubby, won AL Player of the Week for the Yankees. So Anthony Rizzo had a hell of a week. He got on base 50% of the time. He batted .444. Incredible. I think the most out of all of this, he scored 10 runs, which led the league by 3 over the 7-day stretch. So he scored 10 runs for his team. He had a game-winning home run on Friday. He had a .6 Fangraphs WAR, which was the highest in the American League. He had like an OPS of 1.315 or something along those lines. A great week.
1.315.
Yeah, a great week for Rizzo, who is probably, I'd say, the most consistent player on that Yankees team so far this year. I think he's batting over 300. Now, at some point, his back is going to start to bark, but when Rizzo gets hot, when Rizzo gets hot, he stays hot, and he brings you Gold Glove defense. So he wins American League Player of the Week for the Yankees. It's his 4th ever Player of the Week award. It's the first one, though, he did with the Yankees. So I always love seeing Rizzo have success. I think that's the one guy I miss the most from that team.
Yeah, as long as his back, as long as his back is good. I mean, he's quietly having a fantastic year. I mean, these are MVP batting line right here. He's in the top 5 range of home runs. If you take Pete Alonso out of 14, but 9 home runs, he's nearly got a batting line of 3, 4, 5. That's what you look for in average on base slugging. If you can get a guy on base 400% or 40% or more, and be slugging in the 500s, that's an MVP type line right there.
Mm-hmm. As long as he can keep it up.
Right. Rizzo's not talked about.
Well, because in that lineup, he kind of gets lost behind when they're both healthy, Judge and Stanton.
And even Gleiber right now is getting attention. Why not Rizzo?
And DJ was the one DJ LeMahieu was a guy who got a lot of headlines in New York for a while, too. Even Harrison Bader. I feel like Bader steals more of the headlines, but Anthony Rizzo. Even, Luis Robert had another week. I think he'll probably win Player of the Month in the American League. But so the Yankees are starting to get better. The Dodgers are playing better, and the Cardinals are playing better. I think what I would name this episode is the Evil Empire has righted their ship in the last week.
I hate to see it. All 3 teams. I hate to see it. Hate to see it. The Yankees are having a great week. The Dodgers, I think, have lost 4 games is all. This last month or the last, I don't know how many games, 20 games. They've only lost 4.
8-2 in the last 10, I know that.
16-4, I want to say, in the last 20 games.
16-4. So, they're getting hot. The Yankees started to play baseball the way that they should be. The Cardinals are starting to play great.
Because Arenado and Goldie are heating up.
Coming into tonight, Arenado had 5 home runs 5 days in a row of a home run, so 5 games in a row. And if you just heard that, I just killed a bottle of Weller Antique.
I was about to say cheers to Rizzo, and because we love him, but I have Old Elk Cigar Cut in my glass, and I don't want to drink any more of it.
Come on, just do it for Riz. Do it for Riz.
For Rizzo, here we go.
To Rizzo, come on, down it, Mikey. There you go. Our cheers to Anthony Rizzo. Boy, that is, way different flavor. That is a way different flavor. That Weller Antique. It's good. Very good. But
I'm jealous right now.
You realize how thick and how intense the Old Elk is when you go down to a Weller Antique, because it makes the Weller Antique kind of just seem
right. Should I not pour that?
Yeah, you probably will like it, but go for it. Go for it. But the Yankees, so Rizzo playing for the Yankees, this Yankees-Toronto series, which is going on right now, has probably been the one to watch the last couple of days. A lot of controversy going on in that series. And the Yankees and the Blue Jays, as we speak, are tied in a pretty good game right now as Chris Bassett's on the mound. And Chris Bassett, I want to throw something out there real quick. You saw it on YouTube already, if you follow us there. But Bassett threw a complete game shutout last week. He did it against the Braves, didn't he?
He did do it against the Braves. And it was against Spencer Strider. Spencer Strider gave up 1 run and got the L. 12 Ks in 6 innings, and he got the frickin' L. I'm upset about that because he's on my fantasy team.
Well, last week when we were talking, Mitch Keller had won, who had got the complete game shutout for the Pirates for the first time since 2018. Bassett's was the first one for the Blue Jays since 2015 by Mark Burley, who I forgot was a Blue Jay, all in all. But that was how long ago it had been since someone on the Blue Jays had done it. So that was impressive. But he's pitching tonight.
There's only been 10 complete games this year, which is, to me, everyone loves it when a pitcher goes to length.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's higher than it was last year at this point, though.
Yeah,
that's just probably a little, because Evaldi's done it, as well as Alcantara, Bassett. I feel like there's been more complete games regarding pitchers going deeper. I think because they're probably throwing less pitches because of the pitch clock. To be honest, that would be my guess, because they're kind of getting rushed to throw the ball, but there's outs being more. They're getting more outs quicker. Tonight's like ace night, man. I'm just looking. It's Evaldi versus Strider, and Garrett Cole versus Bassett over in Toronto. So like some of the better pitchers are pitching tonight. I just realized.
Yeah, between Toronto and New York, the tension is high as Toronto broadcasters. I want to say the broadcasters are the one who have instigated this the most. Have accused, and also it's also happened two different instances. The Blue Jays broadcasters have accused Judge of cheating. Right before his second home run of the game, I think, on Monday night, he was seen, his eyes shifted into the Yankees dugout right before the pitch that he hit a home run.
So have you heard the reasoning behind that?
No, that's all I've heard.
And I actually believe the reasoning.
Judge? Oh, what Judge said? I did.
Yeah,
I heard what Judge said.
The first base coach supposedly found that the pitcher was tipping his pitches, and he was able to find it at first base. So Judge was looking down at first base, which in my mind, completely legal. If you can find the tell of a pitch, if a pitcher's tipping his pitches, that's one thing. If you're trying to steal signs with like what the Astros did, or I believe the Red Sox did it as well. If you're doing
using non in-game thing, like if you're the runner on second base and you're getting the catcher and you're hey, that's part of the game, baby. You're putting a hand on the head. But if you're using video and you're using electronics, get out of here.
So that's what I think it actually was, because I remember my first base coach in my little league and my travel ball being like, this guy, he wiggles his right arm weird when he's about to throw a curveball. So who knows? And you might only be able to see that from the first base side or from the third base coach box. So that's Judge just trying to get a tip. Okay. And if it works, right?
And first base coaches and third base coaches are part of the game. They're supposed to be there. They're the chalk line or paint line for the coaches. One could argue that they're not a player. They're just a coach that's getting a different angle. But I don't like that Judge. If that's the truth, come out and say, hey, he was tipping his pitches. It's that simple. But Judge instead said, oh, the Yankees dugout was getting rowdy when we're up 5-0, 6-0, 6-1 or something, and they're arguing. They're getting rowdy about strikes, and I didn't like that we were up already. Like,
oh, I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, that's what Judge said. Judge said his dugout was getting rowdy about strike calls, and he didn't like that they were getting rowdy because they were winning by so much. So just let it go. That's Judge's comment.
Well, if that's what he said, I'm not a fan of that. I do think that he was. I do think the pitcher was tipping pitches. That would be my guess. I don't remember who it was, but I know John Schneider got into it with the third base coach with the Yankees yesterday for not being in the third base coach box, and he told him, "Shut up, fat boy," to somebody. Did you see that video at all?
No. The only video I've seen, it was an edit, but it was who was the center fielder for the Yankees for a long time? Not Aaron Hicks, but Brett Gardner. There's a video of Brett Gardner slamming the top of the Yankees dugout with something.
With a bat. Yeah, with a bat. He's taking it.
And it's cut where it's Judge like zoomed in looking, and then Judge looking over towards the dugout, and then there's Brett Gardner, boom, 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 and then Judge hitting the home run.
Wow.
But that's pushing it far, like towards the Astros type of deal.
Yes, very, very. But then last night,
Fat Boy
Domingo Germán got ejected.
For actually cheating. And he was called out a couple weeks ago by the same umpire crew for the same thing. And the umpire said that this was the stickiest hand he's ever seen. And did you see the Blue Jays broadcasters? They zoomed in, and he put his hand on his hip, and then he moved his hand, and there was just a bunch of gunk on his jersey. I saw that. That's not good.
No, especially, here's my thing. A couple of weeks ago, they already pulled you aside. They already told you, hey, something's wrong here. They checked him twice, I believe, in that game, and they told him to wash his hands. And then again last night. So
that's like when Scherzer got caught. He obviously came out clean-handed because his spin rates were so down. but you knew he had just been caught. So
Yeah.
he knew he was going to have lots of eyes on him. Herman,
Mm-hmm.
you just got to be smarter, man. If you're going to,
Yeah.
I'm not telling you that, to be doing, hey, do it if you can, get away with it. Just be smarter,
Right.
man.
Mm-hmm. So, speaking of umps, did you see the ump show this weekend?
Oh, I love a good ump show. Pisses me off.
But did you see what happened in
Oh,
Arizona?
no. I did see what you're talking about. Go ahead. I did see it.
So,
Absolute ump show. Ridiculous.
so I don't know who was batting for the Diamondbacks, but he check swung, and the first base umpire said he didn't swing. So Christian Walker, first baseman for the Diamondbacks, very underrated player, by the way, doesn't get enough due. So here's your due, Christian Walker. He's sitting there clapping in the dugout like, yeah, good call. And then the ump threw him out of the game
He was
for
stunned.
just cheering.
He was stunned. Like, what
He
was
was like,
what,
"Are you
what was
kidding?"
in the ump's mind? What was in the ump's mind there? Like, for clapping, was he what did he think he was chirping about? If he was like, "Hey, yeah, good job," or I'm flabbergasted. I think everybody is, and
Speaking of flabbergasted, what the is in your hand? Are you doing like hand strengthening exercises over
he
here?
was sitting here on my desk. So yeah, I'm doing for my forearm for baseball.
You might be trying to get his forearm. There's other ways to get your forearm strengthened, Michael.
Let's not talk about that other ways, Brandon. I know I go to the gym and
Wrist
do
curls,
forearm.
wrist curls. Yeah.
Oh.
You can stretch
Yeah,
it.
This came with a new set of bands I got this year. My first new set since 7th grade.
So Michael's multitasking here. He's doing Bourbon and Baseball podcast along with the hand.
I'm not doing a lot of
wrist
bourbon
strengthening.
though. Not doing a lot of bourbon.
No. Well, you just put up new shelves. I noticed that as well. Cool shelves there.
I did. I got my shelves finished. I'll have to post a picture. It's bourbon and baseball. That's exactly what my shelves are.
Ronnie Acuna just went yard again.
Oh my gosh. What number is that for that guy?
I think that's number 10. I think. But he did it off of Nathan Eovaldi, who had coming into this game
That's number 11.
28 consecutive innings without giving up a run, and the Braves have scored 3 off of them. That series is a good one. The Braves versus the Rangers right now.
Two
That's
powerhouse offenses.
Mm-hmm. And 2 great pitching staffs this year so far, to be honest. I mean, the Rangers pitching staff, even without without DeGrom, has, John Gray's been pitching great. Eovaldi is one of the best pitchers in the league. So that's
Dane Dunning out of nowhere for them.
That Braves and Rangers right now could be a preview of the World Series. We talked about that with the Braves and the Orioles last weekend. So that's another fun matchup, and this is something we wouldn't get every year, right? Yeah. Teams playing every team.
Did you see the sad news for the Rangers? It's not really to the major league team, but Kumar Rocker has to get Tommy John.
He had to figure it was coming sooner or later, right?
It does for
It seems like every player, every pitcher has Tommy John at some point.
You just hope to only have it once now.
Right. And that's how it is nowadays for sure. But yeah, he is going on the DL. Or the DL. There's another kangaroo court. There's another $1. So Brandon owes $3 to the bourbon jar. But he's going to be out for, I bet you they hold him out through the end of next year. He probably pitches a couple games towards the end of next year in the minors, but by the time he has the surgery now, rehab, it's a 12-month deal before you're throwing, I think.
Yeah, it's usually a 12 to 18-month ordeal.
Yeah, so for them, he's young. He's going to be up soon anyways. So I would just hold him out even through next year. But back to the ump show real quick. You noticed that Angel Hernandez has not been talked about at all this year?
That's because he hasn't been calling games for some reason.
He's only umped 1 game. The last one was April 3rd.
Oh my gosh, April 3rd.
Yeah, so the Umpires Association and Major League Baseball, they're probably like, yep. The union, they're like, yeah, let's not have him on the field. Like a no-go to this guy. Like,
so is he in the replay room effing up replays?
I have no idea.
He
might be doing forearm exercises for all I care.
I don't know, but my elbow's hurting all of a sudden.
Yeah, is it? Yeah, well,
I need some Tommy John over here. Oh.
Michael overdid the old forearm strengthening. Speaking of pitchers who are coming back, not necessarily from injury, but I want to give a big shout out to Liam Hendricks. He beat cancer. He's coming back. He'll be up with the White Sox here
Ding, ding,
shortly, I
ding, ding,
believe.
ding. Ring the bell.
So awesome for that. I know that happened a couple weeks ago. We're a little late to the party, but I knew that we needed to say something. So here's another cheers to another player, Liam Hendricks.
Don't make me do it.
Come on. I'm going to drink to Liam. Our guy just beat cancer. Come on, Michael.
Look, I poured it into my mini Glen.
Your mini Glenn. You put down on the list Walker Buehler thrown off a mound. That's good news.
He was not supposed to come back till September, but now that he's already throwing off a mound, I think he could be productive in August for them. Even if he came back as a reliever. If he came back as a reliever, that'd be fantastic for the Dodgers. But the other problem with the Dodgers is Dustin May, who just had Tommy John in his back this year, just went down with an elbow injury. I don't know exactly if
they just said he was going to the DL. That's another one, Brandon. That's $2. So for those of you new to this, if we say disabled list, because that's what it used to be called, or the Indians, which is what the Cleveland Guardians used to be called, that is a fine of $1, which will go to a bourbon jar. And once we get enough money, we'll buy another bottle of bourbon to review on the podcast. So Brandon owes now $2 from this podcast. But yeah, Dustin May got hurt today. Who were they playing? Was it the Nationals?
Minnesota, I think.
Oh, that's right, Minnesota.
Yeah.
They're saying a flexor pronator strain.
Yeah. So hopefully, in an effort to avoid surgery, they're going to give him an injection.
Yeah, he's out at least 1 month, which is not good. And that Dodgers team, as we mentioned, are really starting to turn around. James Outman hit a grand slam today.
Oh my gosh.
They're playing very good baseball.
Where did that guy come from?
Their minor league system, man. Speaking of the Dodgers, former Dodger, and we were talking about Texas, Corey Seager is back tonight after coming back from a hamstring injury. He got activated. I think he said he's DHing tonight.
He is DHing. He's hitting second and DHing for the Texas Rangers.
And he was on a tear before he got hurt. I know he was batting something like 350 or something when he got
350, hurt. 359 through 11 games is all.
So that means he got hit today if he's up to 359.
No, he is 0 for 3 with a strikeout.
Oh, well, then okay. So he was 359 probably coming into the game tonight. That's where my head was at. Because I know currently when I looked at it, he was batting 350. So
yes, 359 coming into tonight. And now tonight, he is 0 for 3 with a strikeout as Texas is leading Atlanta in the bottom of the 6th, 4-3.
Yeah, Jesse Chavez coming in after Acuna cut the lead in half. It was 4-2. So the solo shot by Ronnie. He's got a chance. He has got a chance not only to win MVP, but also have a 40-40 season, which I don't remember the last time that's been done.
The dude has 17 stolen bases already. That's a given, I think, right there.
The other day, he was on pace for 37 home runs and 69 stolen bases. So he would fall just 69. Short of the 40 home runs, but I think he'd be able to get to the 40 home run mark. But, man, Seager back. That lineup, that's the last thing the American League wants to see is Seager back in that lineup. They're scoring the second most runs in baseball.
Yeah, Texas's offense is is the best probably in baseball.
Mm-hmm. And between them and the Rays right now, because the Rays continue to score like 6-7 runs per game, but their bullpen's blowing it right now.
Yeah.
But the Rangers are scoring runs. That they just added Rookie of the Year to their lineup, as Seager was when he came up. But he's been MVP candidate every year that he's been healthy, right? Like towards the top.
Corey Seager?
Oh, yeah. He's got the potential when healthy. He's just never fully been healthy, right?
Right. 2020, 307, 358. He's consistent. He's always batting around 300, on base percentage around 350, and usually slugging close to 500.
Yeah. And
what else can you ask for out of a shortstop?
2016, 2017. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's playing a premium position. He was an all-star last year in Texas. And he had a rough year last year, to be honest. He batted 245. That's his worst year of his career last year, and he got all-star. Well, moving on from Corey Seager over to another battered middle infielder who is on the Houston Astros.
So much excitement. Yes. Houston Astros.
So he's been in Double-A for the last couple of days, I believe, and now he is actually probably returning to the lineup. My guess is Friday. Dusty said that they pulled him out of his rehab assignment today to come play with the team for batting practice, and depending on how that goes, he may be reevaluated, but most likely probably in the lineup on Friday would be my guess.
Right. And that would be a great time to try to get back in the loop of things because that's when they're starting I don't know if they're starting, but they could be playing on Thursday, but they're playing Oakland on Friday. So a great time to get some good reps, to get some good confidence building.
Well, we were talking about the evil empire a little bit earlier with the Yankees, the Dodgers, and the Cardinals. We can throw the Astros into that because they're starting to get hot as well. I mean, they played the White Sox this past weekend, but
and they've
really
taken 2 of 3 so far. Two of 2 from the Cubs.
Yeah, more likely to be 2 or 3 the way the score looks right now, but we're not going to jump the shark on that one just yet. But they're playing better baseball. So overall, just the evil empire is starting to make a comeback here, Michael. All 4 teams.
Don't like it. Don't like it. I was happier when the Pittsburgh Pirates were out of nowhere. Not that I believed truly in them to continue doing it, but I was happier when Pittsburgh was in first and St. Louis was in last, which one of those is still true. Not for long, but...
Well, Pittsburgh won today, so that helps.
And Pittsburgh has won only 3. So have the Cubs. But we're not going to talk about that.
And Mitch Keller's won 2 of those 3.
Oh, no. It's true.
Yep. They had only won 2 out of 10 games, and Mitch Keller was the one who got the win in both of those.
No.
And then another injury that you put down, Kyle Wright, 60 days to the injured list. I almost said it again, but I didn't.
Yeah, that's a bummer for the Kyle Wright had his breakout year last year. Braves would have been 4-man deep with Bryce Elder breaking out this year. So the Braves really are only down to 3 reliable pitchers in Strider, Elder, and Charlie Morton.
Is Fried hurt still?
Fried is hurt, and he could be out through July.
So, but they always seem to be pulling up pitchers. The Guardians, and the Rays.
One guy I want to mention, there's Elder. There's Elder. There's Schuster, who has not been doing well. There's Dylan Dodd, who has also not been doing as well. There is a guy they just promoted to AAA. He started the year in High A this year.
Oh wow! And he's in AAA.
Got promoted, made 2 starts in AA, and got promoted. And I think in 19 innings, he has 31 strikeouts with no runs given up.
Name?
AJ Smith-Sauver.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to rely on your pronunciation, Michael.
Shawver. It's SHAWVER. Shawver. Yeah, Smith-Shawver.
Oh, that is a Smith-Shawver.
20-year-old high school Texas QB, started in High A, has a perfect 0 ERA, .86 whip through 21 innings.
In AA or all together for the year?
In High A, and then 2 starts in AA.
Woof.
He's already been promoted to AAA. But
the Braves just keep
Texas sports. Yeah, the Braves just pump him. Strider came straight from out of nowhere. He was not a name that everyone was like, watch out for Spencer Strider.
Yeah, last year, Rookie of the Year, right?
Was Strider Rookie of the Year?
I thought he got NL Rookie of the Year. I could be wrong. No, Michael Harris won Rookie of the Year. So he was runner-up, I think.
Another guy that came out of nowhere.
Another Brave. And then Anthony Rendon, hurt again.
Are we surprised? I don't know how they're still running that guy. Or I guess they're not really counting on him since they have Gio Urshela and Brandon Drury who can fill in at third base this year.
But you're paying him so much money.
Yeah. But hey, now when they lose, it will be without Rendon, and Trout and Ohtani will go each hit a home run. They'll still lose. So
yeah,
nothing changed.
Well, they had been playing pretty well until the last couple of days, but they look better this year than they have in years past, but also it's still
I had
early.
the Angels, I think, in my power rankings
You do.
last week, in the
Well,
top 10 last week.
last week. Well, that's a great segue to get into this week's top 10 power rankings, which is brought to you by no one. But if you'd like to sponsor our power rankings, whether that is Comcast or ComEd or someone who brings power, Thor, if you're out there and you want to sponsor our power rankings because it's powerful, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Maybe it's
We'd
one
love
of
to
our
get a sponsor.
new subscribers, Thomas Powers.
Yeah, Thomas Powers. You would like to subscribe, or we already did subscribe. If you would like to sponsor us, we would love it. I mean, anybody. I mean, if you've got a company and you want to sponsor Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast, we'd
Brandon,
love
don't
it.
feel
But
so desperate.
I'm not desperate. I'm just saying we would love some sponsorship.
You're just pushing it. Let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just.
Hint,
It
hint.
doesn't happen if you don't push it. If you don't push it, it doesn't happen. But regarding our power rankings, we are jumping. I'm assuming we both have the same number one team as we have all 4 weeks that we've done power rankings.
Number one team has not changed over the last 4 weeks that we've done this. I would assume if we started at the beginning of the year, it would have been the same thing as the Rays went undefeated for how long. I do have a brand new number two, though. It's always been the same 1-2 for me. I think same
Same
for
as
you.
me, and I've got a different number two as well.
Okay, so my number two is the hottest team over the last 20 games, the Los Angeles Dodgers. 16 and 4
And
in the last 20 games.
and that is mine as well. They've scored the fourth most runs in Major League Baseball, the most in the National League. They're 8-2 over the last 10, as you mentioned. They're 16 and 4 in their last 20. They're the Dodgers of old in the last couple of weeks. They are looking like the best team in the National League after the Braves have stumbled the last couple of games. We're both in lockstep there. Who do you have third?
Number three is my former number two, Atlanta. Uh, they're they put a beating on Texas on Monday night, which is a great offense. They shut them down 10-0. Pretty sure was it 10-0?
Thought it was 12 to
Uh,
0.
Was it 12-0? So Atlanta's still a freaking powerhouse of an offense. Three great starting pitchers. They don't have a fourth and fifth. So I couldn't bump them down too much further. How about you, Brandon? Number three.
I went with the second best record in baseball, the Baltimore Orioles,
Okay.
who were last week fourth. I had the Dodgers jump to second, the Orioles jump to third. I mean, the second best record in baseball is second best in their division. It's hard to be at the top of their division when the Rays got up to as hard
They're
as
catching
out
them.
of
They're
the start
catching
as they
them.
did. Now, Baltimore didn't have as good of a week, but there's 5-5 in their last 10. But still, when you're second best in Major League Baseball record-wise, kind of hard not to be in the top three, in my mind.
Right. Right. Well, okay. Right, but
Yeah. And then fourth, I have the Texas Rangers, who have the second most runs in baseball. What I find is impressive is they're 12-8 versus teams of 500 or better, which is
Right.
one of the better marks. The Rays, remember when we were talking about the Rays a couple of weeks ago? We were like, they haven't played anybody. They've played 23 games against teams with 500 or better, and they're 14-9.
so there was
So-
no fluke. No fluke.
No fluke. So they've got most of their losses against teams with 500 or better record, but still 14 wins out of 23. That's better than 500 versus teams who are above 500. That's why
Yep.
the Rays continue to stay towards the top. I go Texas with my number four, as I mentioned, second most runs in baseball. Hard to
Yeah.
beat them right now.
I agree with you. Texas, I got number four. I mean, that offense is scary. They put up a lot of runs. They did against the Braves even.
And they won 7-4 yesterday, I think, versus the Braves. So they went
Right.
1-1 in the first two games, and the Braves are my fifth team. I did have them drop 3. They've had a rough couple of games. I think they are 5-5 in their last 10, or 4-6 in their last 10 coming into tonight. So they didn't have as great of a week. They're actually not that great against teams with a winning record. I think they're 10-10 or 9-10 with a team
10-10.
above 10-10. Now, their run differential is the best in the National League, but also by only playing 20 games so far this year versus teams above 500, you would say that they've beaten up on the lower end teams. So that's where you start to get your higher run differential. And just that 4-6, that was the worst out of my top 5. They fell 3 positions. They're still
You know what's
probably
interesting
one
I
of-
just thought of, though? that above 500 record changes. So like the Dodgers lost to the Cubs earlier a lot earlier in the
It
year.
was as the team was above 500, though.
Okay. Okay. So that
Yeah.
record doesn't change based on how their opponent that they
Right.
lost to or won against.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So
at the time
Dodgers
of
are
playing
eight and
that team,
nine against
yeah, the
500
Dodgers are
teams.
8-9 because a lot of their games came against the Padres, who was their rival, though. So, like, I kind of weigh those games differently. They just swept the Padres this past weekend, too, and took 2 or 3 the weekend before.
Yeah.
So that is my fifth team. I'm assuming we have the same top five, if I had to guess,
We do
just
have the
in a
same top
different
five. I
order.
got Baltimore at five. I couldn't push Atlanta and Texas because of those offenses out of any lower. But
Yeah.
Baltimore's
Well,
right there, like you said. The record is there. The kids are playing. Adley, um,
mhm.
I forget. Ryan
Cedric
Mountcastle's having a great year. Cedric Mullins is having a great year again.
and
Gunnar Henderson needs to pick it up.
but hasn't he been playing a little bit better as of late, Gunner? Didn't
Gunnar
he hit a home
Henderson
run the other
finally
day?
has. Yes,
Yeah.
finally.
Um, so that's a young team to watch. I mean, they haven't played as well over the last week, but they're still the second best record in baseball. They're fun too. Did you see Cedric Mullins hit a home run in the eighth inning for the cycle the other night? But did you see what they've implemented at Camden Yard when someone hits a home run?
No, what do they do?
They call it the splash zone, and someone stands outside of the section. You have to buy tickets for the section. This is called the splash zone. It's like SeaWorld. They spray the hell out of you with, I believe, champagne or
Oh
some
wow!
sort of like, yeah, they just spray you down. It's pretty funny. And
I
when
thought
he
you
hit
were gonna say
the,
water, but they get fancy.
I think it's champagne. I could be wrong. I saw it on social media, but
Yeah,
he hit the home run to complete the cycle, and they went nuts because it was the bottom of the eighth.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So my sixth team is the same team as last week. They were 6-4. They're playing the Braves right now. They're 1-1 this week versus them. But the Blue Jays 15-12 versus teams above 500. That, I mean, every team in their division is above 500. So every game they've played against their division has been against a team above 500 most likely. But they have a great offense. They're still scoring runs. Bassett had a great game last week. Hard to keep them out of the top six for me.
So I differ from you there, and I have them at 10 as they got destroyed by Atlanta. Do I have that as by Atlanta? No, they took two of three from Atlanta.
They're
But
playing
I
Atlanta
have,
right now.
yeah, yeah.
Oh no,
No, the
you're
Blue Jays, the
Texas
Blue
and Toronto.
Jays.
Yep, Blue Jays.
I have the Blue Jays down at 10. It's not a knock against them. I just like other teams better.
You like
If
other
that,
teams better.
I like
Well,
other
where did you
teams better.
have? So I'm going to get on you because last week you got on me for giving them higher than the Red Sox. Where did you have Toronto last week?
Toronto, I didn't have in my top 10.
You didn't have them in your top 10 last week?
Mm-mm.
You didn't even have them in your top 16 looking at your list now.
Yeah, I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that. Something was off there. I don't think I finished that completely because Detroit was listed as 14. I don't think I finished my complete power rankings last week.
You didn't even do
Something
it
was
for
wrong.
week 2 either.
No, I did the top
So
10.
you didn't
Week
have
one, I
Toronto.
was so stoked.
So that's where I should have yelled at you last week is why didn't you have the Blue Jays in the top 10?
I don't know. That was a week ago. Let's talk about why I have them.
Okay,
Who
so
I
you
have
have
in
them
front of
jumping
them.
into the top 10 at
I have
10th
them
now.
jumping
So
into the
who
top
do you
10.
have in 6th then?
In sixth is Minnesota.
Okay.
Minnesota came in, torched the Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
Had their offense. They just Joey Gallo hit bombs. Trevor Land
Joey Gallo didn't just hit a bomb. Joey Gallo broke Statcast.
Statcast.
You didn't see that? The home run
No.
he hit off of Hayden, there was no
Mm-mm.
exit velocity and there was no distance because Statcast broke because he hit it so hard and he hit it so far. That ball's still flying. I just saw it go
Oh
over
my
Kentucky
gosh.
as it started to orbit the earth again.
But yeah,
That
the
had
Twins
to,
out.
that hit the scoreboard in right field. It hit the scoreboard. That's like the fourth deck.
Yeah, and that was the best, freeze frame of Hayden frozen. Like, oh my gosh.
You could hear him say, he screamed right after it.
You do
Uh,
hear him.
Yeah. So you have Minnesota at 6.
I have Minnesota 6. Alex Kirilloff is finally going off for him.
went off
Correa's
against
coming
Hayden.
around. Yeah, Correa's coming around.
Get healthy
Pablo
versus the
Lopez
Cubs.
is turning out great trade for them. Giving up Arias. So
I
and
have
then
the
move.
Twins in 7th.
Okay.
So one spot lower than you. They have the second best ERA in baseball. They've given up the third least amount of runs in baseball.
I
Their
mean,
pitching
Pablo
staff is,
Lopez, Joe Ryan, Sonny Gray, three aces right there.
yeah,
You
Joe
could argue
Ryan.
three
Do
aces.
you know who they got Joe Ryan for and from?
No, who is that?
They traded, somehow they fleeced the Tampa Bay Rays. They traded Nelson Cruz, who had 2 months left on his contract, to Tampa a couple years ago, and they got Joe Ryan, who's now the ace of that rotation if it wasn't for Sonny Gray.
Right.
But yeah, their pitching staff has been great. Their offense is coming around. Joey Gallo, he's got one of the funniest lines. He was hitting under 200, but he had an OPS above 850 because he's either hitting home runs or getting out. But that team,
Right.
I called it at the beginning of the year when I said that I thought they were going to win that Central Division. They're the class of that division by a long shot. There's no other team within shouting distance, and I don't even think I have any other team. The Tigers are 16th in my rankings.
Tigers playing good baseball lately.
They are, and they've been, but they're still under 500.
Yeah, because they started out atrocious. They started out so atrocious.
So my pick for 7 is the Minnesota Twins.
I've got the Houston Astros playing good baseball of late, like we've talked about earlier on the podcast. They've won three in a row. They're about to get probably one of the leaders back, Jose Altuve. Kyle Tucker's playing good. Jordan Alvarez is hitting freaking bombs like he does. And I won't go any further into the Houston Astros, but I'll get into my number 8, which is the New York Yankees coming around. Like
And
we
we
talked about
both
again, the evil empire.
and we both have the same number 8 because I went with the New York Yankees as well with my 8. They're 7-3 in their last 10. They've been playing great baseball. They're scoring runs. They beat up on the Tampa Bay pitching staff this weekend. They had a great start to the week versus Toronto the last couple of games. They're playing better baseball. They're better than the Red Sox have been in the last week or so. They kind of replaced the Red Sox in my top 10 from last week, and the Red Sox are the biggest droppers in my. The Red Sox and the Cubs both dropped the most in my power rankings. But yeah, Yankees are 8 for me at 7-3 in their last 10, and
I
right
think we
behind
have
them,
the same 9. We have the same 9.
Arizona.
Yep, Arizona.
They actually dropped in my book by a ranking. They were 8th last week. They're down to 9. They were only 5-5, but they score a lot of runs. They're 5th in the league in scoring.
If they could find starting pitching besides Gallen, I mean, can you list their pitchers besides Gallen and Brendan Fatt?
Ryan Nelson, I think, is the other guy. And the other two,
Yeah.
I have no clue.
Right.
And the only reason I know Ryan Nelson is because I was like, who the hell is this guy? And I had to look him up.
They had the DFA, Madison Bumgarner,
Mm-hmm.
Luke Weaver.
Yeah, that's who started the other day, I think.
Yeah. Not sure what's going on.
That's their one area of depth, and their bullpen's not great, but they've been fun. They're scoring runs. They continue to seem to just find a way to win, which is what
Merrill
you're looking
Kelly.
for.
Merrill Kelly.
Merrill Kelly, that's another one. He's a good 3, and he's having a decent year, I'd say. He's the best, second best pitcher on that team outside of Gallen right now, and if Fott can figure it out, which I think he did last night. I think he gave up, 1 run in 5 innings last night as he started to rebound. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch for the Diamondbacks. Their rotation is probably the biggest question mark. Boy, what a series for, I think his name's Donovan Fletcher. Is it Donovan?
Right? Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Dominic.
he gets called up. Dominic, yes. Dominic Fletcher.
Dominic Fletcher.
Yes. Very strong start. He tied the franchise record for RBIs in a series, with 11 in the first 3 games of that series. He didn't get one on Sunday, but have a call up, right? Get called up and then just drive in 11.
Yeah. In fantasy wise, they say it's almost a no-brainer to recommend him.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Diamondbacks have the second best hitting matchup this week. So,
well, they played the Oakland Athletics to start the week, and who do they play this weekend?
They then play Pittsburgh this weekend.
Oh, well, there you go. And their pitching staff has not been great, even though Dick Mountain got a big win today.
They do have to face Mitch Keller, so 2 of
What's so
3.
funny?
Dick Mountain.
Yeah, Rich Hill, Dick Mountain, best nickname in sports.
There was something, the oldest matchup between Rich Hill and Miguel
And
Cabrera.
Miggy. Did you see them run to first base together? It was the funniest thing in the world. It was the slowest sprint because Miggy hit a ball to first base that took the first baseman into the hole. So Rich Hill had to cover first base, and he realized it, and they both sprinted. It's the funniest thing. Go look it up on social media. It was like the slowest sprint. It was 83 years old combined between the two in that sprint. Boy. And then my 10th team, they have one of the better records in the league, believe it or not. I think it was like top 7 is the Milwaukee Brewers. They're playing better ball as of late. They've really taken control of the NL Central over the last couple of days. They're 6-4 in their last 10. My one issue with them is they don't score much, and they've got a good pitching set, but the run differential is a +4, which is
that's
not good.
Yeah. I think that run differential is a good power, especially early in the year. We'll see how the Rays got so high so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not going to give a lot to I'm not going to give anything unnecessarily to the Brewers.
They've got the 6th best record in baseball. That's why I figured if you're in the 6th best record and you're leading your division, even though their expected winning record is supposed to be 21-21 by the Pythagorean theorem, I think that's what it's called. What's it called? There's a theorem when it takes the run differential. It's escaping my mind. But when you've got the 6th best record, I'm putting you in the top 10. So that's my 10.
And they're doing that without a great Corbin Burns and a great Brandon Woodruff.
Right. Who's your 10th team? Oh, you already said the Toronto Blue Jays.
Toronto.
So to list it off,
Toronto.
Brandon, 1 is Tampa Bay, 2 is the Dodgers, 3 the Orioles, then goes the Rangers, Braves, Toronto Blue Jays, Minnesota Twins, New York Yankees, Arizona Diamondbacks, and the Milwaukee Brewers. Just outside of my top 10, I had Houston and Seattle 11 and 12, and Boston, the biggest falling team, down to 13 for me after a very rough week.
Yeah, I've got the Rays, Dodgers, Atlanta, Texas, Baltimore in the top 5. And then the bottom 6 through 10 is Minnesota, Houston, Yankees, Diamondbacks, and Toronto.
So that is our top 10. So if you have a gripe with it, message us. We'd love to hear it. We'd love to give our opinions back and forth. We'd love to talk about it. So thank you for that. For those of you who've chimed in on our Facebook posts and all of that, I want to give a shout out to Poor Man's Pours, who they give us a shout out on their podcast. It's our guy, Jerry, a whiskey kid and his peppers. He's been a big supporter of us from the beginning. He's got his own podcast out as well with a couple of buddies. So Poor Man Pours, go check them out. I think they're on all. You listened to the episode. I didn't get a chance to get around to it.
Yeah, I listened to it.
What'd you think?
Yeah, it was. Jerry's told us it was his turn to tell the drunk story. So if you're looking for a good laugh, listen in, and then they get into rum a little bit and talk about Captain Morgan and some other drinks guy. And
Jerry's a big rum guy.
And you hear more about different. He talked about more about different rums and which one they were like. Oh, I got to get another one. I got another bottle of that. So good entertainment. Listen.
Go check them out. Poor Man Pours. One last thing I wanted to do. We did it a couple weeks ago. We've kind of forgotten to do it the last couple of weeks. Talking about the best series of the weekend. I would circle 3 separate series to take a look at. That Braves versus Mariners matchup in Atlanta. It'll be a good one. The Dodgers travel to St. Louis, 2 of the hottest teams in the National League right now.
Yep.
And then also the battle of the AL East second-place teams, basically. It's Baltimore heading to Toronto to take on the Blue Jays, which will be a fun one. Manoah will be starting in that series on Saturday. And I think on Friday, you're going to have a pretty good matchup as well. Yeah. Gibson and Kikuchi. You've got Bryson Miller, who's had an incredible start to his career.
You hope to see it continue. No injuries.
Yeah. 1 earned run. Listen to this matchup Friday. Miller versus Elder in that Mariners versus Braves pitching matchup. So a very good game there. So go check that. That would be my game of the weekend right there. That pitching matchup. 2 young players in the top 10 in ERA in the league. 2 starting off really great. That would be
the game's gonna finish 8-7. now.
and no one's going to see it because it's on Apple TV Plus. Come
Oh,
on, Major
I
League
was
Baseball.
so mad. I pulled up MLB TV to watch the Cubs the other day, and it said
Yeah.
blacked out. I was like, "Why? How would the Cubs be blacked out for me?" And it
Apple
was,
TV.
hmm,
Apple TV.
I,
So that's where you
I
can
get it
find it.
free at least through my
Apple
phone.
TV Plus.
Hmm.
So
I hate all
that
this.
is
Game on Peacock, game on YouTube, game on
the
this.
Peacock thing.
Just let me play, watch my damn game.
The Yankees and the Reds play this weekend here in Cincinnati, and they play the Peacock game on Sunday. Sunday's at 11:30
The Red Sox are in town
start.
for you?
The Yankees.
Oh, the Yankees are in town. You
Yeah.
you able to make it out for one?
I doubt it. I'd love to, but I doubt it. It's the only time Great American Ballpark sells out. So hard to get tickets. Hard to get tickets for one series and one game of the year, and that is the opening game. Yeah, and I guess Sunday baseball in St. Louis, Kershaw versus Flaherty should be a good game now that Flaherty's starting to pitch back. Even Bieber versus Verlander on Sunday will be a good one for Sunday night baseball.
Bieber got lit up earlier this week, though, Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah. But before that, he'd been pitching. I feel like every pitcher who had been pitching well as of late got lit up in the last 3 days.
Uh-huh.
Eduardo Rodriguez, Justin Steele, another one got knocked down the peg a couple days ago as well. They all seem to be dropping like flies.
Sunday night baseball is Guardians versus Mets in New York.
Mm-hmm.
They call Sunday night baseball at 6 o'clock, which isn't terrible, but
6:10. 6:10 Central, 7:10 Eastern on ESPN. No free ads. But that has been another episode of Barrels and Barrels.
Sorry, go ahead.
That has been another. There's the background music from Mikey. That has been another episode of Barrels and Barrels, a Bourbon and Baseball podcast. Thank you for listening to this hour and 20 minutes, hour and 30 minutes of bourbon and baseball and some fun. We hope you enjoyed it. Instagram, you can follow us there, Barrels and Barrels Pod. Also Facebook, Barrels and Barrels Pod, and Twitter, Barrels and Barrels. Don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube. That is Barrels and Barrels Pod. We're putting out a lot of extra content there. So if you've missed it, you're missing a lot of cool stuff. Go check us out there. Email us, as Michael mentioned early on in the episode, barrelsandbarrels@gmail.com. We're on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Amazon, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio Podcasts. And please review us. We would love a review. We'd love a rating. And we'll give you a shout out if you do. What's so funny?
Just please review us.
Please review us. Just do it. I'm desperate. So
That
has been episode
cheers
26.
to the reviews, Brandon. Cheers, right here. Cheers.
Cheers to the reviews. Yeah, Michael's drinking. Is that a Powerade or is that vitamin water?
Vitamin water.
Yeah. Go drink your vitamin water. Do some more forearm curls or whatever the hell you were doing earlier on.
No, I hurt myself.
Yeah, that's what happens, buddy. That's what happens. You just overdo it. You just... Oh, man. Well, again, episode 26, Wade Boggs, the best number 26. That is episode number 26. Michael Burns, any thoughts for our friends, families, viewers, listeners, anybody who still made it an hour and a half into our podcast?
Let's go.